Memento, Christopher Nolan's first and last word on his cinematic obsession.
Don't try to understand it.
As Nolan has become one of today's most anticipated and acclaimed filmmakers,
Feel it.
repurposing familiar genres with his own hugely ambitious narratives and themes, challenging the industry's entrenched IP dependency by turning original complex stories into blockbusters, transforming established icons in ways never before seen on the big screen, adapting other people's work and distilling them through his own distinct sensibility. Remember this: you can rewind to just his second feature and see the film that so perfectly encapsulates and, in many ways, predicts everything that would make his future body of work so rich and rewarding, especially for a filmmaker so preoccupied with time. If time, its duration, direction, momentum, is life's unstoppable force, then cinema's disruptive power of editing has long delighted in turning it into a movable object. From an early age, movies have gone back within their narrative flow to show past actions, flashes back in time as revelations, historical clues to unravel a present mystery.
They kept testing Sammy for months.
Nolan's Memento then follows a pretty impressive and well-established lineage. The film's flashbacks are the most basic way in which Nolan pretzels chronology here. Memento is structured in two distinctive parts. Longer colour scenes interspersed with black and white excerpts.
You say we talked before?
The monochrome scenes are more straightforward.
Yeah, but it's not amnesia. I remember everything up until my injury. I just can't make new memories.
They feature our protagonist, Leonard Shelby, holed up in a motel room talking to an unknown phone caller. His conversation is the film's deft delivery of exposition. Leonard explains that he suffers from anterograde amnesia, an inability to form short-term memories, and that he's on a mission to avenge the rape and murder of his wife, the attack in which he sustained his memory loss injuries.
I got a reason.
Things get much more intricate in color. Opening sequence aside, time doesn't run in reverse, but instead consecutively leapfrogs backwards in time, so that the beginning of a scene is repeated as the end of the next scene. So each time we see a new color scene, only when we watch the following one
I'm chasing this guy.
do we learn what precipitated the events we witnessed earlier. The audience is thus placed in the same position as Leonard,
No, he's chasing me.
suddenly emerging into a present they don't recognize, where the effect is evident before the cause.
You know what? I'm gonna use you. I'm telling you now because I'm gonna enjoy it so much more if I know that you could stop me if you weren't such a fucking freak.
It's a smart gambit from Nolan. On one hand, the black and white scenes, moving forwards in traditional chronology,
I'm a claims investigator, not a doctor.
ground and give us a more objective view on Leonard and his goal.
I'll see you soon.
Concentrate.
Meanwhile, the color scenes fully immerse us into his subjective mindset.
Come on, I can find a pen. Jeez, come on.
But ultimately, both reveal how people can manipulate his condition
Who is this?
to their own advantage. For an amnesia neo-noir thriller,
What happened?
Memento is a canny merging of form and content.
Who? Fuck Leonard. Dodd beat the shit out of me.
One wonders too whether Memento's monochrome sections aren't just color-coded for orientation, but whether it's also an acknowledgement of the film's debt to film noir.
I know what you're gonna hand me even before you open your mouths. You're gonna tell me you don't believe my story and give me that don't make me laugh expression on your smug faces.
Noir, in its 1940s and 50s heyday, produced dark, often despairing crime
There
thrillers.
was no time to lose. Every minute I had to be Charles Haskell was dangerous.
Characters were doomed from the start, and many film noirs were framed in flashback, emphasizing the fatalistic bent of their tales.
Let's go back about 6 months and find the day when it all started.
All the protagonists could do was relate the tragic events that brought about their inexorable comeuppance. And Leonard, so often a pawn in Memento's events, seems trapped in a resetting memory loop that will leave him in limbo. Yet, here's where the film's bifurcated, converging narrative structure allows it to break out of genre conventions. It's also far from the first narrative to use reverse chronology. Both theatre and film have famous examples of stories that unravel backwards and, as with film noir's flashback framework, usually illuminate inescapable tragedy, seemingly predestined from the start. But as already shown, Memento's alternating structure does more than this. Quite apart from the whole subset of time travel movies, recent history seems flush with films that play with chronology in adventurous and innovative ways. Broadly speaking, there are two approaches.
What is the source code?
The high concept, often sci-fi inflected device that glitches, shuffles, or repeats time.
This is not surveillance, this is the actual past.
Yes. He's stuck.
Then there's non-linear storytelling for more conventional narratives. The idea that this style imparts greater emotional weight to the protagonists and their fates. Memento stands out because it's in that rare group of films which combine both high concept
We'll pretend to be someone else.
and non-linear chronology to their most potent combination.
Phil Connors! Ned!
Nolan's fascination with manipulating time has only grown. Such temporal shifts now built into several of his films. Dunkirk's triptych structure and duration put the audience in the place of the soldiers on the beach, the would-be rescuers at sea, and the fighter pilots defending them in the air.
You've seen that time is represented here as a physical dimension.
Interstellar uses intergalactic multi-dimensions to allow human beings to contact each other from the future to plot their own species' survival.
In a dream, your mind functions more quickly, therefore, time seems to feel more slow.
And Inception's nesting doll dreamscapes, each level of the subconscious operating at a different temporal speed, risks its characters getting lost in their lucid dreams forever. Each of these ingenious constructions, however, contain a degree of, if not outright gimmickry, and certainly an element of external showmanship imposed onto the narrative.
5 minutes in the real world gives you an hour in the dream.
Does Inception's rigid logic work against a concept as inherently irrational as dreams? Do Dunkirk's three-pronged timelines fundamentally affect or even improve its impact? The difference in Memento is that the film's time ellipses and scrambled syntax have a sense of internal logic. The best, perhaps the only way to embody its hero's mentally and emotionally blindfolded journey. The style is its own story, plot, and themes.
The greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convincing the world he didn't exist. And like that, he's gone.
Leonard's condition understandably makes him something of a sketchy guide to the story. The unreliable narrator is a proven, highly effective device for stories that want to upend expectations, or even question the idea of objective truth. There's even a movie-inspired name for this. In Memento, everyone Leonard meets is a possible source of misleading information. The manipulative buddy.
Lenny!
The prospective femme fatale.
Maybe I can help you find him.
Even the scamming hotel manager.
I know you said you didn't want any calls, but...
These potential threats lead Leonard to establish his system of factual recall through notes, Polaroids, tattoos. He claims that coming across a man also suffering from anterograde amnesia, Sammy Jenkins, in his former job as an insurance investigator, prepared him. Sammy had no system. People thought he was faking, and his devoted diabetic wife ultimately died attempting to prove his condition wasn't real. But if that all sounds too coincidental, having two amnesiac men with dead wives in one story, this is where Nolan plays his final, most unforgettable memory game. Go back around 60 years. French director Alain Resnais made two modernist masterpieces, Hiroshima Mon Amour and Last Year at Marienbad, that went beyond non-linear narrative and unreliable narrators.
Je te rencontre. Je me souviens de toi.
Meditations on memory and reality, they question not just the order of events portrayed, but whether we could ever really be sure if these events had happened at all. Time is a psychological construct as much as a temporal one. The films themselves became unreliable narrators.
Was it good for you?
And ultimately, Memento embraces such art house existentialism as it does genre subversion. There's a pretty straightforward way to untangle Memento's hairpin construction. Run in linear time, the black and white scenes precede everything we see in colour. Leonard on the phone in the motel, discussing Sammy Jenkins, leaving to meet Jimmy, who he believes to be his wife's killer, John G., and murdering him. Monochrome then merges into colour, brilliantly through a developing Polaroid, after Jimmy's murder. When Teddy arrives, he tells Leonard that Jimmy is one in a line of John G's that Teddy has had him hunt down.
I took that picture.
Since finding the real killer.
Just when you did it.
Long before. That it was Leonard's wife who had diabetes, not Sammy's. Thus throwing into question whether Leonard's version of his past is true at all. Did he in fact accidentally kill his own wife and invent a narrative in which he's avenging angel rather than guilty perpetrator?
My wife wasn't diabetic.
But then,
you sure?
Can we even trust Teddy?
I'm not a killer. I'm just someone who wanted to make things right.
The film then ends roughly a third of the way through the events it shows, with Leonard consciously deciding to frame Teddy as his next John G. And ultimately killing him. No! The last thing in Memento's story, but the very first thing we see. A thriller about deception morphs into a study of self-deception.
I have to believe that my actions still have meaning.
Leonard's haunting closing monologue widens the scope out from an amnesiac killer to the lies we all tell ourselves.
Do I believe the world's still there?
How confirmation bias can distort our point of view.
Is it still out there?
How we shape reality to deal with the world outside our heads.
Yeah.
But even here, I don't think Nolan settles on a final solution to his intricate puzzle. The final flashes of Leonard and his wife show him not just with tattoos, something surely unnecessary before she died, but different markings altogether. Does "I've done it" refer to a fantasized wish fulfillment of triumphing over amnesia, avenging his wife, the director's own secret satisfaction at outsmarting his audience? Memento's time-shifting puzzle might be solved, but its deeper emotional mysteries remain tantalizingly concealed. 20 years on, perhaps with 20/20 hindsight, Memento still feels like Nolan's most revealing convergence of clinical formalism and dazzling showmanship.
You want the truth?
Despite several highly successful riffs on its style and themes. After all, what is Inception but Memento's blockbuster action movie incarnation? A man's elaborate self-devised system to cheat time and save the wife that he himself likely doomed, spinning elaborate fantasy rather than facing a simpler, more disturbing reality. For all his habitual ingenuity and ambition, it's this film that imprints most deeply in the mind. Memento, Christopher Nolan's first and last word on his cinematic obsessions. Now, where was I?
Hi, Julian here. Leonard's method of staying on top of things is not something I'd personally recommend. Though productivity, especially in times of stress, can be pretty difficult to manage. So today, I'd like to recommend Thomas Frank's productivity classes over at Skillshare. I've worked a lot from home for many years now, and I think if I had something like this when I started, it would have really helped me a lot in those early days. To be honest, I still struggle now at times, and Thomas's videos gave me some great new valuable strategies. Skillshare is an online learning community with thousands of classes available in filmmaking, design, technology, entrepreneurship, and general lifestyle guidance. And there are plenty of filmmaking classes that I've also found really helpful, from color grading to video editing and composition. Skillshare is less than $10 a month, and the first 1,000 people who use the link in the description will get 2 free months of premium membership.